Welcome to the Sideshow. If you like what you're seeing, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but it's always fun when you finally finish a kit, regardless of what the kit is. This is a kit that I have been working on off and on for about 3 or 4 months, and I finally got it off the workbench. Almost done. It's about as done as I'm going to be able to make it. And it's odd that a kit that is basically just a snap together kit would take that long to build, but that's what happens sometimes, and that's what happens when you just don't have as much time as you wish to build a model. But I got inspired and I finally got it finished. Now, pluses and negatives on these World War II's models. The negative is the rubber band track. I wish they would come out with a better track. I get it that they're making them so that kids can play with them, but let's face it, most of the people who are building these things are also adults. There's not a lot of kids out there building models, so they really don't need to do that. They should just go ahead and put like a solid kind of track that go around there, and they really also don't need to make them snap kits, because quite frankly, several of the parts on this kit, you're better off sanding them down a bit and then gluing them in place, simply because if you try to snap them in place, there's a good chance you might break them. Okay, enough looking at boxes. Let's take a look at the kit. Went together fairly well. Like I said, it is straightforward. It is just a snap kit. And I did snap together most of the kit, but there are some of the smaller parts, like the little grab handles and stuff, that are actually glued in place. I filed them down a bit and got them to glue in place. I decided to go ahead and paint the little machine gun up front chrome silver. And, well, I'm not going to try and move it. The gun does move up and down. And as you can tell, I did it in the old Korean War version with the tiger face and everything, because well, I'm practicing. I want to eventually do this to an M4 Sherman, but it is going to be freehand when I'm doing it, so I figured I would start with the World War II's M26 instead. And you see the face. I think I did a decent enough job on it. Got the mouth and everything there. And then on the back, you've got the little bit of storage that's going on. Like I said, I snapped on what I could, but several parts do need to work better glued. If you notice here, right there, there is supposed to be one of these on both sides. And somewhere the carpet monster ate this one. So I'm still looking for it. If I ever find it, I will put it on. Otherwise, I'm probably going to just grab a pack from somewhere else and put a pack there instead to cover up the slot. But for right now, I'm still hoping to find the little tow hook that is supposed to go there. I probably will never find it though. My biggest gripe on it was what I mentioned, the rubber tracks. I wish they had some other kind of track on there. It would look a whole lot better. What I did was I painted it yellow, the front yellow, and it immediately bled through. The olive drab bled through. So I painted another coat of yellow, and it bled through that one too. And it's like, well, I bet you the same thing was happening in the Korean War when they were trying to paint yellow over all those OD tanks. And I decided not to worry too much about it and figured I would just go ahead and weather it and everything else. So the colors used right here, Tamiya lemon yellow. It was hand brushed on, and then Tamiya olive drab for the back side of it. Black for some of the road wheels, and also for the the flat black for the tiger stripes. Flat red for the mouth, and flat white for the teeth. The weathering was done with medium gray for dry brushing, and then a wash of flat black. And that's really it for the painting, other than the chrome silver for the machine gun mount. And the best thing about this is it is now off the workbench, so I can move on to what I want to be working on now, which is my Dragon Wagon. And we'll move that onto the bench now and take a look at where we're at. Well, first of all, I keep calling it the Dragon Wagon, but technically it's now the Circus Wagon because Mattel has the trademark for Dragon Wagon. So even though it was a Tom Daniel design, he didn't hold the trademark for that, and Mattel was just being a jerk about it. So when they released it, it ended up being the Circus Wagon. That said, let's move on to the actual kit. Okay, if you didn't know, the dragon is not going to be in his cage. I've actually fixed the cage, so the bars are all nice and straight now. But I have opened up the back. I'm still working on how I'm going to get those doors to open, because if you notice, they don't fit perfectly. I do know that they're just going to be open. I'm just going to have them swung open and just hanging there. I'm not going to try and get them so that they can open and close. And I was working on the roof so that this hatch could open and close, but I just didn't like the way it was looking, so I'm just going to also just have it opened up and in place, so it'll be open like that for like cleaning or whatever. So I will get that in place, and then I've got to do some touch-up painting there, touch up on the roof, and then that will be the cage. I will have that done, and then I've got quite a few thoughts that I'm working on with the body of the car. So what I'm thinking of doing is swapping out the drivetrain and the radiator and everything else from the paddy wagon into my my other Dragon Wagon. So it's going to be a lot of brass tone stuff. But I got to get rid of this part that says 1912 fuzz. So what I'm doing is I'm removing the radiator portion out of there. And so far what I have done is using my trusty X-Acto knife, I've basically drilled some holes in the corners where I'm going to have to cut from side to side. I suppose if I had an actual Dremel tool or something and I could actually do something like that, I could do it with that. But I'm doing it by hand with an X-Acto knife. I'm sure it'll work. It's just going to take a little time. And once that's done, I will start working a little bit more on this and get this thing going, because this is the only thing that is holding me back on getting my Dragon Wagon done. Okay, so about 5 minutes later, just basically scribing around the edges over and over and over until finally, boom, it's popped out. Now I can get in there and do a little trimming and fixing it up, and then I need to get a screen to replace the radiator, and that shouldn't be too hard. And then I will put basically a thin piece of black plastic or something like that, and then a piece of screen in there, and that will be the new radiator. And this will end up sitting. I'm going to have to do a little bit of trimming or so, but that's going to end up going right there. Not sure how I'm going to do it, but probably have to cut a couple notches in there to get that to fit into the frame up front. But I think in the long run it's going to look pretty cool. We'll see. Okay, so now on a whim, I decided I'm just going to remove the front portion here because, well, you know, this is a very unique front for the Dragon Wagon. It was only used on the Dragon Wagon and the Hangman. And if I'm going to make a totally different style of Dragon Wagon, I thought, what the heck, why not just go ahead and replace the front end here with the front of the paddy wagon. So I'm going to actually fit this to the front. I've already cut it to size, and what I'll need to do is, if you notice, they're not the same thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some bracing on here to get it to the same thickness as over here, and then I'll also brace it on the inside and probably along the bottom to get the sides to match up a little bit better. but that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have the paddy wagon up front with the paddy wagon engine. And as you know, I've already carved that out, and that solves the problem of the front end here. So that will obviously fit in there just fine now that it is just the paddy wagon's front end. And I will also use the engine here to actually get everything aligned and braced. So what I'll do is I'll end up getting the engine, build the engine completely, glue it in place, and then hook it into the back end of this, and then I'll make sure it's all aligned and the got the proper distance and everything, and that way it'll be nice and sturdy in there, and I'll have a paddy wagon engine up front, which is one of my favorite engines. I love the paddy wagon's engine, and that's why I wanted to do it with the Dragon Wagon, because it is the same 297 engine block that 297 Ford engine, so same engine on both kits, so it'll fit in real nice. So that's where I'm going with it now. And so that's where we're at with this update. I'm hoping by the time of the next update I will have the cage finished and the frame put together, and this will actually start looking like an actual car. Really looking forward to seeing how the front end of the paddy wagon mates up to the back end of the Dragon Wagon. In any case, that's it for now. Talk to you again soon.
Thanks for visiting Toby's Sideshow of Scale Styrene. If you really enjoyed what you saw here, consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up online. Thanks again for dropping by.